Alrighty, Charlotte Regional Championships coming up. We got the tier list. I'm gonna try and be better about this when I'm talking about the decks, when I'm putting them in their slots. I'm gonna talk about how like popular I think they're gonna be and all that stuff as I go for. So we'll just start with Charizard. We got Charizard here. I'm gonna put Charizard in A. No longer an S tier deck for Charlotte, I don't think. And I think it probably should have been A tier as well for Portland, to be honest. It was close. I'm taking it out of S for Charlotte, though. We're going to put it down in A tier. And that's because there's a lot of TM Devo out there. Tina's going to get more popular. I think Guardy might get a little bit more popular as well. There's just a lot of general hate. Not hate towards Charizard, but the meta's pretty hostile towards it. And I actually think it'll get more hostile. I thought TM Devo would be at a little bit higher tick at Portland. But I feel like a lot of people are still discovering to play the TM Devo. So I think we'll actually see it go up in popularity for Charlotte from Portland, which it's not TM Devo isn't impossible for Charizard to beat, but like if like every deck has a TM Devo, it's like you're to beat Tina with TM Devo isn't unbeatable. Other decks with TM Devo aren't unbeatable, but if you go against every single deck that has a TM Devo, at some point you just like, all right, man, this is like tough. Like, so I'm not saying it's like the meta is like terrible for Charizard. It's just going to be more hostile towards it. And I think it's hostile enough to the point where I'm going to put Charizard down in the A tier, where it'll be joined by Lost Tina. I don't think I put Lost Tina in A tier yet. And I'm not going to give Lost Tina the S tier because Lost Tina, just kind of like Charizard was at Portland, was enemy number one. The enemy number one at Portland was Zard. And I think I should have put Zard in A tier because of that. And Tina, I think, is enemy number one now going into Charlotte. Once again, Tina has a really good matchup spread, and all the little things people will be playing don't make your matchups unwinnable as Tina, but it's like all the little things just get annoying, and they kind of all stack up. Like, Guardy players going to Workers instead of Avery, so they have more path bumps. Charizard playing more path bumps potentially, or maybe going back to the Choice Belt plus Radiant Charizard, which I'll talk about that in my video where I talk about the Charizard list that I would play at Charlotte if I do play Charizard at Charlotte in my video tomorrow or on Wednesday. What's the day? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. So yeah, I think it's just gonna be a lot of people playing a lot of little things to help them out against Tina. Yeah, so it's gonna be a lot of little things. It'll be a little bit more hostile towards Tina, and overall I'm just still not blown away that much by Tina as a deck. I'm still not that blown away by Tina as a deck. So Tina, I'm gonna give it the A tier though. I'll give Tina the A tier alongside the Charizard. I should have talked about matchup percentages. I think these will be the two most popular decks of the tournament. I'm gonna go ahead and predict Lost Tina to be the most popular deck in the tournament at 14%, and then Charizard will be right there at 13 to 14% as well. So like Tina might be like 14.5 and Charizard might be 14 or something. It's gonna be really close. I think it's gonna be really close, but I put Tina and Zard as the top two most popular decks at the tournament, around 14%. Yeah, I don't think Zard is gonna draw. I think Zard is gonna come. Honestly, I could see Zard coming down quite a bit. Zard could come down to like 12%, and Tina might be at like the 14. I'm pretty convinced, or I'm pretty solidly set on Tina being 14% of the meta though. All right, tier 4. I'm Roaring Moon. I think Roaring Moon is good in tier 4. Nothing's really changed for the deck. I think the Iron Hands way is the best way to play the deck. That gives you the deck a lot more. The deck just gets a lot more once you add Iron Hands to it. Like your Zard matchup isn't as bad. It's still bad, but not as terrible as it was. It's like it goes from terrible to okay, this is manageable with Iron Hands. So yeah, Roaring Moon. Put down in the tier 4 down C tier. So still not great. I think I've had it in C tier for a long time, to be honest. I'm going to throw the Golden Go. Honestly, I'm tempted to put Golden Go in C. Golden Go has a good Charizard matchup. It's got a rough Tina matchup. Guardy is like manageable. Maybe not. Maybe I'm putting Golden Go down in C. Maybe take it back. Gardevoir, I think I do have in the S tier for this one. Actually, maybe I put... Well, if I'm not putting Gardevoir in S tier, what would I even... Now I'm trying to think about this. What would I even put in S tier if I'm not putting Gardevoir in S tier? Am I putting Rapid Strike in S tier once again? I feel like I am. So I think I am going to go Gardevoir in S tier. Or do we have a bunch of decks in S tier? The more I'm like thinking this through, maybe there's like 4 decks in S tier. Lost Box, I'm going to put in tier 3 though. Kyogre, I think, is the best way to go with Lost Box. Oh, I didn't talk about percentages. Golden Go, 4%. Roaring Moon, 5%. Lost Box, 6-7%. B tier. Kyogre is definitely the best way to play it. Definitely should be playing Kyogre. Guardy, 10 to 12% of the meta. I want to put Guardy in S above Charizard and Giratina. And I do have Miraidon joining it as well. less Charizard in the format. People, you got the Coco in there now. The Charizard players should be playing a switch card, so you're not gonna be able to abuse the Coco like you'd like to. But you can play the Judge Path build, so you can try and get some more mileage out of the Coco in the Charizard matchup. But the big thing is Tina gets more popular, which is a favorable matchup. Not by a lot, I'd say a slightly favorable matchup. Guardy's been has an uptick in popularity as well, which is also good for Miraidon. The biggest thing is Charizard's going to come down in popularity, so that's the biggest plus here for Miraidon. You don't really have the Coco to take advantage of, but you got that going for you. So I think I want to put Gardevoir and Miraidon. Now, I personally am not going to be playing Gardevoir at Charlotte, but I think I do still want to put it in the S tier right here. It feels like it's in a really solid spot. Miraidon's not going to be overly popular like it has been in the past, I don't think. I think Miraidon's probably going to peak at 12%, if anything. So we're not looking at like that 17% Miraidon meta share like we have been seeing at like San Antonio and stuff. So that feels like the meta is a little bit more manageable for Gardevoir. Charizard's still going to be really popular, not the top dog anymore, and then Tina's going to be up there as well. And both those matchups, I think Guardy is favored into. Slightly to Tina, solidly favored against Charizard, slightly favored against Tina, but Chi and Pal Excalibur, I think I'm going to go ahead and throw in that that tier 3 as well. You have some tough times up against Miraidon. Miraidon's tough, but you got a good Charizard matchup. You got a really good Charizard matchup. I think you're solidly favored into Tina, and I think you're slightly favored against Gardevoir. Kind of depends on the Avery count. Chi and Pal is also going to be one of those decks that's like at, I don't know, 4 or 5%. Chi and Pal was a pretty good play, a pretty solid play at Portland, because the Miraidon numbers were lower. Yeah, because the Miraidon numbers were lower, but they're going to come up a little bit. I am tempted to put Excalibur a little bit higher, to be honest. I am tempted to put it like in A tier. I do think you're favored. I think if the Guardies have 2 Averys, I think it's like 50-50. If they don't have Avery at all, I think you're definitely favored as Excalibur hands into the Gardevoir matchup. The Miraidon matchup is unfavorable. You're good against Charizard. You're really good against Charizard. I think you're favored against Giratina. But then you do start to come up with some struggles against stuff like the Lost Box. Rapid Strike's a terrible matchup. The Mew matchups are both bad. And like your Tina matchup is like favorable, or your Guardian matchup is like favorable but close. Tina matchup is still reasonably close as well. The only one I feel like you're having a really solid time against consistently is the Charizard. The Miraidon's bad as well. I think Chi and Pal maybe sits here in the B tier still then. I kind of want to move it up, but I don't think I can really push for moving this up any higher. Okay, Rapid Strike. I've had it in S tier the last 2 times. It hasn't performed ridiculously well. And Miraidon has felt like actually it's been like a tougher matchup for Urshifu. Also, Mew's kind of been on the rise. I don't think I can put Urshifu in S tier at all. I think I'm going to go A with the Urshifu. It's still really solid. You got a good Guardian matchup. You got a good Charizard matchup. I think you're favorable into Tina if you build it very supporter heavy, like Researches, Ionos. But your Miraidon matchup honestly has become pretty tough, especially if it's the Peony build. I think the Peony build is unfavored. The non-Peony build is close, but probably slightly favored for Urshifu, but pretty close. So you don't really have that super favorable matchup like you used to, I feel like, as Urshifu. Yeah, I don't think I can warrant the S tier from Urshifu anymore, just because you're getting closer matchups here. Like Charizard isn't going to be the most popular. You're going to have like Tina being the most popular, which I still think it's favorable for Urshifu by a little bit, but it is only by a little bit. Snorlax stall, I don't really like control right now. I don't like Snorlax stall at all. Tina's just too popular, man. Tina's just too popular. That's tough. And if Miraidon does gain some more popularity again, and Miraidons will probably be playing that Spiritomb. Oh, Urshifu also is probably going to be at that 5 to 6%. I think with its lackluster performances the last 2 tournaments, no top 8s, I think we're going to see Tina, or Urshifu was like at the 7-8% mark, I think, for San Antonio and Portland. With its lackluster performances, I think we're going to see Urshifu come down to like 5-6%. For sure. Like I said, the Miraidons will probably be playing Spiritomb as well, which also hurts Snorlax stall. So you got a bad matchup against Tina, which will probably be the most popular deck of the tournament. And then you got another tough matchup in the Miraidon that'll be around 12%. They got the Spiritomb most of the time. You're still beating the Urshifus and beating the Charizards. Your Gardevoir matchup is close. That kind of depends a little bit more as to what the Gardevoir players are actually bringing, how good control is against Gardevoir. But generally, I give Snorlax stall the edge over Gardevoir a little bit. But if they have like the Turo and Pal pads, but no one really plays that anymore. So I think we do give Snorlax stall the edge over Gardevoir. But because of how popular Tina's going to be, I think I got to put the Snorlax control down in B tier for sure. Now we get to the Mew decks, which I think I'm going to put both of those in A. I think I'm going to put both of the Mew decks in A. Charizard's coming down in popularity. Tina's going up in popularity. Now, the big question here, we saw the Ian Robb list with the 2 Fusion Energy and the Elsa Sparkle. I think that's how most double turbo builds will be built, which between that and the Fusion build, playing Spiritomb doesn't feel great. And I don't even know if playing Spiritomb makes sense in like the Tina deck or the Miraidon deck for the Mew decks if they have the Fusion Energy. I don't think I'm going Fusion S because the Charizard matchup for Fusion is just bad. The Guardian matchup for Fusion is also bad. DTE Mew, I think, has a better time. The Fusion versus DTE versus Guardian is probably pretty close. Guardian's favored against both of them. Zard's favored against both of them. If you're playing like the Handlock Mew, it gets like close to 50-50. If you're playing just double turbo Mew like the Ian Robb build, I think it's like a 60-40 for Charizard's favor. But you got the good Tina matchup. You got the favorable Miraidon matchup, especially if they don't have the Spiritomb. And then if they have the Spiritomb, it's probably close to like 50-50 to slightly unfavored for Mew. But if they don't have Spiritomb, you're definitely just crushing as Mew. Beating the Rapid Strikes. I honestly don't know how Lost Box pairs into the Mew decks right now if it doesn't have Kyogre. If you have Kyogre, you're probably good. And then Mew's usually decent against the Snorlax Control and the Chi and Pow as well. So I think A tier. I don't really want to put him in S because the Guardian matchup and Charizard matchup are tough. And I don't know where we're currently at in the cycle of do you tech for Mew, or not do you tech for Mew. That's a different question. Will people be teching for Mew? I'm not sure where in the cycle of will people be teching for Mew we are, and if people will actually be teching for Mew or not. I would predict that most Miraidons will probably be having the Spiritomb because like the most successful lists most recently with Miraidon will still have the Spiritomb. But will the Tinas include the Spiritombs for this event? I'm actually not sure. I'm sure they would love to play Drapion, but you can't really play Drapion in a deck where you only play Path to the Peak and you don't have a bump for Path to the Peak, because then the Mew players just put a Path in play and you can't Drapion them. So it's like, the big question I think is, will Tina players play Spiritomb? If they do, it's not looking great for Mew, but if they don't, Mew is honestly in a pretty good spot here because of Charizard coming down in popularity, and then matchups that Charizard struggles against rising up in popularity, as well as overall the meta becoming more hostile for Charizard. So actually, I don't have any D tier decks, but someone mentioned Palkia. I would have put Palkia in D tier if I had put it on the tier list. But yeah, no D tier this time around, I guess. Just S, A, B, C. And we could also like bump all those down and maybe not do an S tier deck. Cause I think it's like, I don't think Miraidon and Gardevoir are not head and shoulders above everything else, above all the other A tier decks. But I think they definitely, it feels good. Miraidon and Gardevoir feel pretty good for this one, to be honest. I think it feels pretty good for both of those. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how the how the tournament goes. But that's my tier list for the Charlotte Regional Championships.